I've heard stories in the past about departments that, to make sure they're ranked higher in the national rankings of different engineering departments, are saying we are giving too high a GPA, and to maintain our high ranking, we're going to have to lower the GPA that we give. I'm sure students have heard stories like this, right? That is fucking crazy.
So today is day one of our investigation. We are investigating Georgia Tech CARE, which is the therapy, psychological help center for Georgia Tech. It's staffed with therapists. It's directly connected to psychologists in our Georgia Tech's medical facility stamped. Yeah, we're doing investigation on CARE because frankly, what we hear is people are struggling and they're not getting the help they deserve. And so we're looking to see where the problem is and what can you do to fix it. And so I'm about to go meet our group and we're gonna start doing our investigation.
How has your mental health changed since you started at Tech? Because we want to get what we want to try to do is understand how the Georgia Tech signature affects people's mental health. Yeah, so it's like we have to show that there's a problem that CARE exists to solve, and like CARE can help solve, but it's not solving. The problem is bigger than CARE, basically, because CARE is like good for what it is, but it just is not enough. I want to figure out what the problem is, because I think that generally speaking, most students have poor mental health on campus, and generally speaking, they don't pursue any treatments, and it's kind of a self-perpetuating thing. So we need to understand why that is.
This form asks for their address?
We probably don't need to fill out the whole thing.
I just pulled that off the internet because we couldn't find the one on.
Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't anyone on Canvas.
Okay, I could just mark that part out.
The point of the interview is to kind of generally poll the public about the population of Georgia Tech about what their mental health experience on campus has been, and get an idea of like what we're looking at. In general, do people pursue treatment or not? And we kind of, I think, have hypothesized what the answers to those questions are, but we need evidence to support our hypothesis.
Yeah.
Are you gonna run out of storage on your phone? No, I got because if it were me, I would be out of storage at this point.
And my phone would die.
Yeah. Cool. So can you just tell us a little bit about broadly what your mental health experience has been since you got to college?
I would say I haven't had like horrible problems with my mental health.
Probably like decent, you know?
I guess like neutral. Not good, not bad, not helped in any way.
I think my mental health is generally fine. Being a tech student, I do experience a lot of stress.
I won't lie, it's been tough. I feel like the classes and like the workload, the culture, are all just very much a way that emphasizes like competition.
Being at this school is like a little bit like competitive.
So I think a lot of cases, there's a lot of internal competition between students.
I feel like my peers are also working very hard against each other.
Students are always talking about how their exams are really stressful, how their classes are needlessly stressful. And Georgia Tech has this reputation of being this prestigious school.
It's like a culture of working hard, staying up to work, working late. I don't really think that really helps on mental health.
I don't think students would be so competitive if it wasn't for stuff either told directly to them or kind of under the radar by teachers.
In my circles, it's seemed like people's mental health around me has been pretty bad.
I've had professors that have actually yelled at me in class.
And I've just heard the same story so many times. People breaking down, panic attacks, everything like that. And
The thing that sucks is that we don't have a true documentary crew, and so we kind of lose our investigative credibility by carrying around bounce boards. You know what I mean? I think that's an important note.
I think it has to be ridiculous.
I wish we had guys. You know what I mean? Just guys.
Had some minions?
So, have you ever been in a place where you've pursued any help from the CARE facilities?
No.
Would you ever consider it? considered it?
I have friends and roommates who have, and I've only had negative experiences with it, which has made it me not want to do it.
I've heard like so many anecdotes from friends of just like they've applied, they've like set up the meeting with CARE to get screened, and then after that they were just referred like somewhere else, and it ended up just not being super helpful for them.
Overall negative. The process was convoluted or expensive depending on if they were referred.
But then because we're students, a lot of us don't have like a stable income. Students can't like afford that kind of mental health care.
I have heard some bad things about the counseling center. You always hear people online talking about like how the counseling center has like given them long wait times, or they just like don't get the best care.
You get the sign.
Where does it say?
Well, yeah, we're the Young Democratic Socialists of America at Georgia Tech, and we've been doing a lot of student research into the situation with the counseling center. We've done research just into the salaries that counselors are offered, as well as the typical salaries that they can make in private practice.
We have a petition here to improve counselor salaries because we've been looking at the counselor salaries online, and compared to private practice, the salaries are like 20 grand lower.
Georgia Tech can't offer the mental health care that its students need.
We have a kind of a shortage of counselors. A lot of the counselors we have are just grad students. They're not even qualified counselors. And we think it's due to Georgia Tech not funding the counseling center properly.
Say something to the Institute about counseling, what would you say? Tell it to the camera.
By depriving the counseling center of proper funding, you're worsening people's mental health. You are deliberately causing people to have poor mental health, and you're just standing by and doing nothing. You're responsible for this poor mental health, and you need to fix the mental health situation right now.
Okay, so after the interviews, we discovered that most people don't have personal experience with CARE. They just have had, negative connotations from other people. We're just going to go through it right now and just look up the website, call them, and see if I can even get an appointment, because that seemed to be a struggle from a lot of people as well. So.
Yeah, I think people felt like there was like a barrier to entry to calling. It wasn't like easily accessible because they had to like make a phone call and go through a big process. So we just want to see what that looks like for ourselves.
Okay, so here's the counseling center website. I think find a provider.
GT Care, this is Hannah. How can I help you?
Hi, I was just calling to see if I could set up an appointment for counseling of some sort.
Okay, have you ever been to CARE before?
I have not.
You were looking for on-campus counseling?
Yeah, if possible.
So I can, so this appointment would be with a case manager who then can refer you over to counseling. It would just be about a 30-minute appointment. You're going to be meeting with Megan Shorey. You're all set. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Perfect, thank you. You too.
So basically how it works is that like assessment call is not actually an appointment. Like, it's just like them asking you questions.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
And then the referral would happen after that. So either like to their own counseling services or to like an external. So Savannah talked to CARE this morning. She set up her appointment on Wednesday, and so she's just going to tell us a little bit about how it went and what her experience was. How'd it go?
It was good. She was really nice. Like, I have no problems with what happened, like, on that meeting. She was just saying, like, hey, we don't know if, whatever you're looking for is something that we'll be able to provide through CARE. One, I, struggle with OCD, so she was saying, we don't have an OCD specialist on staff.
I think it's kind of surprising that they don't have an OCD specialist.
And OCD and ADD are not, rare.
Not at all.
This tells me is that CARE doesn't have much proactivity. It seems like CARE is not adjusting to the needs of the students.
Yeah, I think our obvious next step is to talk to CARE. Like, what are they thinking?
Right.
What do you think is up with students?
I think it'd be good to ask them what are they doing to work, to fix it. You know what I mean? Like, it's clearly an issue. Townsend's got a sound.
If I put this here, you're not going to see the water, right? That's okay.
Go and clap. Clap a little about her up here too.
So do you want to just kind of introduce yourself, tell me about yourself, and tell me about what your job is at Georgia Tech?
Sure. I'm Shannon Croft. I'm a psychiatrist. I've been here at Tech for going on almost 13 years. So the idea behind CARE is this is somebody who will help you make that appointment. Who will give you a list. If you say, I didn't get anybody from this, you call them back and they can help you. So sort of to hold your hand through the process, because it's really a bear of a process.
So would you say that the kind of a high priority item is getting students referred elsewhere?
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's very much an individual evaluation of each student. But it is not true that all students or even most students have to be referred off campus, because there are many things that can be addressed in a briefer kind of therapy. Between the counseling center and psychiatry, we see 2,500 distinct students roughly every year. So roughly 10% of the student body if you add up undergrads and graduates. But there's another couple thousand students that do get referred off campus for longer term therapy that isn't offered here. And as I started looking around to see what other schools do, I can't find there's no schools that do longer term kind of therapy, because that would eat up all the time, and then you'd have to see, instead of seeing 2,000 people, we would see 400 people and everybody.
How would you describe the state of mental health on campus?
I'll say two things, and these seem very different, okay? The first thing is, if you look at what Georgia Tech students, when they present for some sort of help, what kinds of problems they present with and the severity of these problems, these are almost exactly like the national average. There's a thought on Georgia Tech that we are a walking ball of mental health problems and disaster. Every school actually believes the same thing. Despite the feeling that we're a mental health mess, if you look at surveys and statistics and other things, we're not that much worse than other places, and we're better than some places. Now, that's part A. Part B is, if you ask Georgia Tech students, just like if you ask college students, somewhere between 78 and 88% of students say we are in the middle of a mental health crisis. So just because we're not worse than other places doesn't mean that most students feel like they are not stressed much of the time. I think that's a complex and almost a generational issue that we have to think about what this is and what causes it. It is not clear to me that this is a huge increase in mental health illness and diagnoses, but I think that's a huge increase in stress, and that's something that we have to address.
And do you feel like Georgia Tech's mental health resources are adequate to satisfy that need?
Actually, if we just talk about what do we have to help people with mental illness, we have more resources here than any school in Georgia by far. Every year I go to a conference of all of the mental health people from all the other schools in Georgia, and it is embarrassing how much more resources we have. So the idea that we don't have resources here is not true compared to, say, other schools. The idea that we've got nothing here is absolutely 100% untrue. Does that mean it's enough to take care of the stress that students feel? Absolutely not. That is also true. So we can't see everybody. There's lots of people that we want to get in. At the same time, addressing stress isn't something that a psychiatrist is going to fix on a campus, right? What we really have to think about are what are the causes of this stress and why everybody is so stressed, and what has that done? And that's really a more systemic community issue. I mean, what can I do if professors are giving people 40s on a test, or they're not telling you where you sit in the class average?
From our research and just from our own experiences, we kind of know that there is this perception that you were talking about earlier of there being like a mental health crisis on campus and there not being enough resources. Would you say that is true, that perception exists?
Absolutely, that perception. And not only that, but there's a perception on this campus that there's hardly any resources. That the reason that I think this is a dangerous belief is because there are people that may believe there is no one who will help me on this campus and will therefore not seek help. So we have 4 or 5 people that kill themselves every year on this campus. If one of those people believes there is no one to help me and therefore I will not try and go make an appointment, that's somebody who is dead because of this belief. It partly comes out of maybe historical problems with the mental health system that existed 20, 30, 40 years ago. It also comes out of another thing, which is the historical suffering of Georgia Tech students. It's kind of a piece of tech. It says that suffering is good and that you should compete with other people to see who suffered more. I only slept 2 hours last night. 2 hours, I haven't slept 2 hours in 3. That kind of stuff is really unhealthy.
These problems exist. Students are not essentially being reached by the mental health treatment that's on campus. primarily because maybe this perception exists, then what can CARE do to combat that?
The people that are hired are clinicians, and they're actually really busy round the clock seeing students. So we are not the most professional outreach organization, but we have not been very proactive in sort of media communication campaigns and getting this out.
So if you would identify like outreach as an important, really important like aspect to all this, but obviously that's not the job of the therapist and the psychiatrist. So
it has to be something though that we care about and help organize. Because if we sit around waiting for someone else to do it, it's not going to do it.
Why do you think it hasn't happened yet?
I don't know. There's a lot of different things, and I would be doing a lot of speculating. And I don't want to be casting aspersions on stuff that I don't know. I think part of it is the people in mental health are busy seeing people, and most of the people they see feel like it is helpful and that they're getting better, and they feel like I'm doing good work.
There is a perception that Georgia Tech is an academically rigorous place. And
it is an academically rigorous place.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
Yeah, and students feel that, faculty feels that, and at a broader, like more national level, that is like a kind of a known thing. So what role do you see mental health treatment playing in that specifically?
You can have an academically rigorous place where professors can tell you what your standing in a class is, and are you passing or failing before ad drop. There's no reason why that couldn't happen, right? You can still have a place that's seen as a top-ranked school that, doesn't give everybody an A and everything, but at the same time treat people in a way that shows a little bit more respect and understanding that people's emotional life is important. The one thing that is vitally important to know is if right now you are hopeless and overwhelmed and feel like you don't know what to do and you need some sort of help, if you go right now to the Flag Building, walk in there, talk to somebody tomorrow morning, you can be seen today, tomorrow, 2 days, and somebody will sit down and talk with you and help you think about what to do. That exists now, and it will exist from now until I leave Tech. And if you would go and do that, I do not promise that they will solve all of your problems, but I promise they will be available, and I promise that they will give you the help they can give you.
Do you think you found the answer? That's the question. Not what is the answer.
I think I found some of the answer.
Okay.
But I feel like we also covered a lot more potential problems. I think we learned a lot about Georgia Tech's, like what they already have in place, and we learned that they're probably better resourced than we thought. Would you agree? There seem to be people there who really care about the mental state of the students on campus. The most practical thing is that just more people need to know that Georgia Tech has mental health services. And also, I think, empowering students to be like ambassadors of Georgia. So like if a student has been through and has been helped by Georgia Tech Mental Health, and like finding a way for them to help, or some kind of program for them to help spread the word. I think that those are all practical things, but I don't know if they rise to the level of institutional change. And I don't know how one changes a culture of an entire institution that's been existed for years and years. So it's like there are practical things we can do to help and work within the culture that already exists. But changing it from the top, I don't know, I'm just at an impasse. I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm not optimistic about it.